Geelong and Richmond. It's going to be a ripping game. I'm going to spend a fair bit of time on both teams. The Cats, Chris Scott was interesting early in the year talking about Richmond and whether it was a dynasty or not. Take a listen.
With the greatest respect to them, they're not Hawthorn in the multiple premiership years in a row. I don't think they're Geelong or St Kilda or Collingwood through that sort of 2009-10 period either.
I've got to be honest, there was a little bit of a sense during the year that maybe these guys weren't quite where they had been in previous years. That game sort of snuffed that out a little bit, and the games subsequent to that. So, they've clearly been the best team in the comp for a period of time. I'm hoping we can rise to their level and make it somewhere near an even battle.
Well, he's changed his tune. I mean, the comments earlier on were extraordinary in that I'm not saying St Kilda weren't a great team for those years, but they never won a flag. And it was interesting that he used St Kilda as Richmond not being as good at. He's changed his tune, as I said. He's had a wonderful year, Chris Scott. He has stood up to everything that has been thrown at them. You know, he's been the darling of the AFL. He hasn't complained, hasn't whinged. His players have been pretty good. You know, we haven't heard of any really bad situations that have gone on. If they have happened, they've kept them in-house. But to think that he's done this with the team he's sort of rebuilt while staying in finals, could make him one of the all-time greats as well.
And then a whole bunch of draft picks and a Jeremy Cameron ahead, so the era isn't over yet, regardless of what happens. Growing up, one of my favourite shows was Get Smart, Lordo. Chaos versus control were the two warring tensions. Good versus evil. I'm not saying that's this weekend, but they play chaos versus control in their styles. Yeah,
and that's why I'm intrigued by the contrasting styles you just touched on, Hutchie. And this is a chaos team. They want it to be a chaos team game. They don't want Geelong possessing the ball, taking 100 marks. They won't allow it like Collingwood and St Kilda have allowed. This is Richmond at their best. This isn't about possessing. Get in, watch Tom Lynch's contest. Bang, crashes the pack. Ball spills out, they'll get the crummers there, lock it in their front half or score. That's what Richmond want. That's what the chaos of the Richmond footy team is. This is Geelong. This is control. They want to possess the ball. Watch the sagging off of the Brisbane players. They are hoping for a turnover. Richmond will be up in the face. They'll be trying to get surging balls, tapping on, all those sorts of things. But then they get to about 60 metres out and just lower the eyes to Tom Hall. Just wanted to show one more, Kano, and just the control that they've shown. I said they sucked the life out of you. They've sucked the life early out of Collingwood, who have just had to chase, and Brisbane, who have just had to chase, and they haven't played with the energy that Geelong have played with. And again, get it to 60, 70 and lower the eyes to Tommy Hawkins. Richmond are very good at getting the game on their terms, but that's where the Geelong have been incredible this year, getting the game the way they want it to be played as well.
Yeah, I think Richmond will pull the tape out of that qualifying final against Port Adelaide, where the power laid 69 tackles and didn't allow that sagging off and right up in the face of the Geelong defenders and forcing them to panic and turn the footy over. That's why I'll probably just give Richmond the slight edge with that pressure that they'll bring.
Speaking of the ultimate agent of chaos, Kane forecast this last week, and I'm sure it didn't go his way.
If you don't have a plan for Dustin Martin, it doesn't have to be a full-blown tag, but if Dustin Martin is forward of centre, who's the player that goes and picks him up? There needs to be some plan. It's not the old-school tag, but if he's forward of centre, if he's standing at a stoppage with no one on him, you need someone to pay the respect he deserves, because he'll come back and bite you. And let's have a look at what they did. So there's a stoppage, opening minutes of the first quarter. Dustin Martin is standing on his own. That can't happen if you're Geelong this week. So if he's in the midfield, it's Guthrie. As soon as he shows himself forward, it's Kolodjasny. You can't have a situation where you're confused and you get Darcy Byrne-Jones stuck on him. Or Trent McKenzie, as we're seeing here. Watch McKenzie on the best finals player we've ever seen. Ball watch, bang. It's only half a step. And there's a goal. And in a game where Richmond kicks 6 and win it, Martin kicks 2, and that's because he was allowed to get matchups like this. So Geelong need a plan. It won't be a full-on tag, but midfield it's Guthrie. Until you can hand over with communication, then it's Kolodjasny. It's what Port Adelaide should have done with Wines and Jonas on the weekend.
Couldn't agree more with you, Kano. They've got to communicate really well. It's one or the other. Guthrie, Kolodjasny, someone has to be with him at all times. The last time they met, obviously there's a lot of ins and outs for both teams when they played. This is it. Ratugolea, Jarvis, Close were in the team. They are out. Ablett, Rowan, Stanley are in. So that's where the change will be. And I looked at the inside 50 entries in that game, and I could see early on that Noah Bolter had him covered, Tom Hawkins, Hutchie, and this is where they were launching the ball from. So Geelong, you have seen them kicking the ball from 60 metres out. Richmond forced them to launch the ball from too far out. I call it the turnover territory. They should be hitting up. That's what they'll do, hit up this week. Because they're kicking it from so far back, it allows intercept marks and top time and space. This week, I reckon they'll hit that player that was circled. But if you want a long bomb to Richmond, this man, Toby Nankervis, who's in great form, will be in front of Tom Hawkins. So cannot wait to see how this game plays out.
And of course, Danger was in red there because of potential different role to the one he played on that night as well. I want to ask you, Kane and Caro, about the two ruckmen in this game. There's always speculation you need a great ruckman to win a premiership, but these two teams have got through the finals with really impressive efforts. I thought the Nank was tremendous on the weekend, the way he played behind the ball, and Stanley might have had his best 3 weeks. Kane, what do you take on this?
Well, not only that, but look at the premiership ruckman of the last, 8 years. There's no star ruckman on there. They're all workhorses. A lot of them come from other clubs, and you can get the same again with Nankervis and Stanley. So I just think clubs get sucked into either taking a ruckman early on in the draft or paying big bucks like Collingwood have for Grundy. If you're shrewd with your targeting of a ruckman, often there's a couple on a list that don't get much opportunity. You can poach them and they can turn into premiership ruckmen. So that battle with both ruckmen in good form, Caro, is going to be enticing this weekend.
Yeah, I think you're underselling Toby Nankervis, who was just, after the syndesmosis and how much he was missed by the Tigers for so much of the season, I thought he was mighty, as you say, over the weekend, has been great for the last month. And ditto Stanley at Geelong.
Not sure they'd be in their top 10 paid players at the club, Caro, is probably what I'm saying.
No.
You don't need to pay big money for a ruckman.
Yeah, and it's amazing since he's got there, they've won, this will be the third grand final since Toby has been at the football club.
Do they trust Stanley a bit more than they used to?
Yeah, that's what I wanted to make the point, Hutch. This time last year, Stanley had worked his way back in, but they didn't play him in the first final. I just want to show, I think Chris Scott finally believes in Reece and Reece finally believes in himself. And look at that, with Reece Stanley, 8 wins and 2 losses. When Reece hasn't played, 6 wins and 4 losses. So both ruckmen go in super confidence, and I think it's the most informed ruckman Geelong have had in years.
And it's a fully neutral game, this. Like, there's been a lot of talk about Skilled Stadium, the Cats, the MCG, the Tigers. This is on neutral turf for the most part. Interestingly, Geelong have got acquainted to and play the Gabba super well this year, Caro, and Richmond chose Metricon for its final against St Kilda. Do you think they might live to rue that decision?
No, I don't. I think that's reading far too much into it. Richmond have had 2 wins and 1 loss at the Gabba this year, but their Gabba record over the last few years has been sublime. It's been a terrific record, and I think they just wanted to play St Kilda at Metricon because it was around the corner, and they had an even better record there. I wouldn't read too much into that. I would have been much more concerned about the Adelaide Oval last weekend.
And the Cats have done it with an ageing team, in fact, the oldest to play, really, albeit some bright sparks among the youth. Incredibly, there might be considerable turnover of this team, whether they win or lose, Lordo.
Yeah, but as I said, that every single player has got everything out of their ability, haven't they, Kane? Ablett speaks for himself. Taylor, he's going for 3 premierships. Selwood's going for 4. Hawkins going for 3. Tui's been one of the great recruits. Henderson, that's one of the shocks of the season. And Dangerfield, well, one of the greatest of all time. So they're all flying, but I love the introduction of some of those kids.
And they might be older, Craig, but they were bigger and tougher. And wasn't that just so... I can't believe the difference on the weekend. And obviously the Brisbane players were pretty clear about that when they spoke after the game.